Hello, everybody. Welcome to Saturday Night Live Art Shows. My name is Mary Ann Benoit with Northern Lights Home Staging and Design in Seward, Alaska. So tonight, I'm really excited to share with you three new pieces of fractal art that I created that I call Transformation. And there's a really interesting story behind how these pieces were created and the inspiration behind them, and I wanted to share that with you. The first thing is that if you recall, in February, on the 22nd of February, for example, an interesting thing happened. The date was actually 2/22/22. So it's the only time ever that this would happen, where all these twos would line up. And so I felt like, uh, related to like numerology, for example, that's a lot of powerful energy right there based on all these numbers in alignment. And so I started thinking to myself, well, I wonder what would happen at 2:22 in the afternoon on 2/22/22. And I just decided that I would set aside some time right then to work on some art and kind of just see what happened and see what I was inspired to create. Um, so I did. And this is what happened. The first piece you see on the left is what actually I created at that specific time. And then the next two came afterwards and kind of evolved from that. And just in case you're wondering, well, what is the meaning behind the number two? Uh, I looked it up. I didn't actually look up this meaning until after I created these pieces because I didn't really want to be influenced by anything. I just wanted to see how I felt at that time. But this is what I found out later. The meaning too is very strong as far as enhancing your intuition on a very deep and subconscious level, and it helps pick up on energies that cannot be seen, only felt. And I thought, wow, well, that sounds perfect for what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to use my intuition to see what comes through to me at this time and what I create. It also represents diplomacy, grace, and it's a number that represents balance of things to create harmony, balancing of people, concepts, and things. When I was actually creating these pieces, what was coming to me and inspiring me, I just felt like it was representing fire. I was envisioning fire creeping around on a forest floor and consuming what was in front of it. And for example, this first piece, when you look down in the lower right-hand corner, all the gold and yellow color to me was like fire. And as it moves and creeps around, it was charring what was there and turning it black, yet you could still see the shape uh, and the remains of what was there. And the reason I say it's like fire creeping along on a forest floor, I used to be a wildland firefighter, so I've seen a lot of fires go through. And based on the conditions, this is can be what happens if it's very uh, low intensity fire. It can just kind of creep around on the surface and do things like this. Um, But then again, if the conditions are different, if it's a little hotter, drier, less humidity, then the fire can get more intense and can jump up in the trees and start torching out the treetops and become really dramatic. But at low intensity, it just kind of creeps around and acts like this. So that's what I was kind of feeling when I was putting this together. Here's a little bit more detail. You could see the areas where the fire went through and it turned everything black, but you could still see the shape of what had been there before. And the fire is moving around. A little more detail on that. And then here's the second piece. And so in this piece is like the fire has moved from the lower right hand corner up into the middle of the piece. A little more detail. And then here's the third piece. And so now the fire has kind of extended up a little bit higher, but you could see some new colors emerging down the lower right. And that's kind of what happens with a forest fire, is that after the fire moves through and everything's all black and everything looks dead, a lot of times it really quickly new growth will come in because of all the nutrients that just got released. And so in this piece, you can see how the black is starting to change into a little bit of green, and something new is happening. A little more detail on this. And so I started to think about this later as what transformation is like. Originally, I had named these pieces like 222222 based on the date. But then somebody had made a comment when I posted these pieces on social media and said, wow, transformation in action. And the more I thought about that, the more I realized, yes, it really is like that. You know, when people are going through their own transformation journey, personal development, trying to become the person they're meant to be aligned with what they're meant to do, a lot of times our transformation is like fire. Sometimes it can be really slow and just kind of creeping along, and things are happening, but you don't quite realize how much until you stop and look back on it. Other times it can be really dramatic, like fire torching the trees. And it's obvious to you and everybody around you. And other times it can even be, I've experienced this with fires, is sometimes the fire can actually burn underground, under the surface, in what's called the duff, the organic material below. And it can burn for months and months. And you cannot see it on the surface. You don't even know it's happening. And then later, when the conditions are right, that fire can just pop up and start like a forest fire. So your transformation might be like that too. Maybe it's like you don't realize it's happening at all. Maybe other people don't see it either. And all of a sudden it shows up. Something happens, and the way you deal with your life reflects how you have transformed. So I changed the name of these pieces from a series of twos to transformation, because I thought it really represented that. And so that's just a thought for you. If you're going through transformation, which I think we all is your transformation like a slow burn, or are you on fire? So anyway, that's kind of the background of how these things got created and what I was thinking about. And relating it back to the date, the numbers, the twos. If you recall, I said that the meaning of two can be very strong intuition and being able to feel things that you cannot see. And so I feel like that date, I think what happened was it was giving me a strong sense of intuition of something that was important for me to express and maybe could be helpful to some of you out there. So anyway, you might be wondering, okay, well, what can I possibly do with this, Mary Ann? And let me show you. You could put these pieces in a room. As I did, I created this e-design, or electronic design. This is a rendering of a room showing transformation. And so when you put pieces like this into your living space, what happens is it reminds you of what's important so that every time you go into your space, you remember that you're, focusing on your personal transformation and how sometimes it may be really noticeable and other times not, but it's always happening. And here's another picture of that same room. And once again, the other side of the room, of course, I had to put fire in here. And here's the whole thing. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you will check out some of my other aligned energy art, which I consider art with a message from the universe. So this was fractal art, which is a form of sacred geometry, and you can learn more and see some of my other designs by checking out my website at northernlightstaging.com, and my company is Northern Lights Home Staging and Design. So thanks so much for watching, and be sure to check out all the other fantastic artists on Saturday Night Live art shows happening across the world. Have a great night.